Hello, everybody. I'm Deb Floros. I am a jewelry designer, a jewelry making educator, a jewelry fanatic, and I'm a cool crafter. And I know all of you cool crafters probably have a ton of buttons. Am I right? I think you probably do. I know as a jewelry maker, I have a lot of buttons. And I thought I would show you guys some easy peasy things for making jewelry with buttons. Now, there are lots of even more extensive techniques that we could get into, maybe at a later time, but we're going to start out with some easy things. I've got a number of things that I want to show you that are inspiring, and then we'll do a couple of things together. So I'm going to flip my camera down. I have some of my button collection here, and I thought that I would just show you that all buttons can be used in making jewelry. So if you've got some swanky buttons, so I consider these swanky buttons. If you've got some sort of tribal looking buttons, these are super cool. If you've got some wooden buttons, if you've got some vintage buttons, these are shank buttons. If you've got some very modern day acrylic buttons, these are from Jesse James Bead's sister company, Dress It Up Buttons. Maybe you've seen their packages in craft stores. This is a little set called Beads and Blooms, and it's so cute. And maybe you have a bag of just random buttons, maybe some fabric buttons. Maybe you have an incredible check glass button. This is, I mean, I can sit and stare at this one all night. But I've got so many buttons, and I love to just get them out and kind of play around and see what I can come up with. And I thought I'd start by showing you what I was wearing around my neck, if I can actually get it off. So I did not come up with this idea. I saw this idea in a piece of jewelry that was in a retail store. So it was a metal button. And I thought, this is a super easy technique that if you have a button that has two holes, because some have four, some have two, you can string a piece of chain, and it needs to be a very thin piece of chain, through the button. Now, if you just hang it this way, that button is not going to lay right. But I kind of road tested this technique a little bit. And if the button is laying just right, kind of in that place below your collarbone, but kind of above the chest area, it's going to lay flat. So it could move around. I mean, if you're going to be out disco dancing or something, this thing can move around, but it should lay flat. So if you have a really pretty button, just a solo button that you want to showcase, you got a swanky button, maybe you want to show it off. This was just a vintage button that I had in a collection of buttons, and I just took the tiniest of chain through there, and this just, I mean, it's just a fun little instant piece of jewelry. And I added a simple lobster claw clasp with a couple of jump rings, and it's a beautiful button necklace. So that's one idea for you, and I'll show you, like, you can go smaller. So I thought this button was so pretty. It's a vintage button. And I thought, oh, wow, wouldn't that be pretty with some chain through it? So just, I mean, literally so easy. I'm just going to take that chain, drop it through one hole, take the other side of the chain. And this is a really short piece of chain, but this, just for illustration's sake, look how pretty. So I'm sure all of you have those buttons, and you're going to go dig through them, and you're going to find those special buttons, and you can wear this around your neck. And maybe you've got a button that was your grandmother's or your mother's or your sister's, and it's just a special piece. So this is a way that you can wear it. and it's just really fun and easy to make. So that's one idea for you. So let me set that one aside. Now, if you want to display a button in a necklace, another way that you can do it is if you've got some like bezel pendants. So I had these metal ones in my stash. I believe they are by the company Nun Design, Nunn, if you're familiar with them. And all I did here was take some Aleene's tacky glue, and I dropped some into the bezel. This one is a little bit different. This is a 2-hole button, and I just glued it in. So it's sticking in there just fine. I gave it some time to dry. If you wanted to, you could drop a couple of little rhinestones in there to cover up the holes if you feel funny about the holes. But if you have a shank button, you can also just glue a shank. Now this one kind of sits a little bit higher. So my glue actually went around the edging of the bezel. So that's just another way that take that special button, that pretty button that you love. Maybe you've got just a really beautiful vintage button that you want to work with. If you've got a bezel piece, and these, this is just one of a cajillion bezels that are out there. So you can find yourself a beautiful bezel and fit your button into the bezel. And I love how these look. I picked some pretty fall colored buttons and put them in this nice shiny gold. So I thought they were kind of fun. Another idea for you. And then I made bracelets. So maybe some of you cool crafters have something like this in your stash. So this is a very old bracelet, and it's what I would consider a bracelet blank. Now you could wear it just like this. They don't really make them like this anymore. And if you find them online, they can be a little bit pricey these days, but I did find these for a deal from an eBay seller, and they are perfect for gluing things on. So what did I do? I glued on some buttons, and I love this look. So I just grabbed a bunch of kind of mellow colors. This really is a bunch of neutrals, except for that bright orange, that bright yellow, but it's just a bunch of neutrals. But you could go with any kind of button. You could go with just a single color. And I've even glued on some Jesse James beads, dress it up buttons, and I will actually cut the shanks off the back and glue them on. And I like these findings because they have a little bit of texture to them. So that glue is really going to pick up and hold on to the piece and to the button very nicely. So even though my buttons are round and this little, the little link on here is square, I love the idea of it kind of looking like a frame. Now you'll also see these bracelet blanks in rounds too. So if you find those, or you happen to have one or two of these stashed, it's a great thing to embellish with buttons. And so I love that. And then I had one of these. This is a more modern bracelet blank, and this is really kind of a bunch of linked bezels. So these are little bezel cups that you can put things in. So I've used these for resin projects and all kinds of fun things. So I had a few of these, and I grabbed some slightly larger buttons and dropped the buttons in with a little bit of tacky glue. And I road tested this. These buttons are in there nice. And, if you really wanted to, you could drop some resin over these, and, you could make them a little extra shiny. I didn't do that. I think they look beautiful just as they are. And I actually really love these two together. So you love a bracelet stack. You can get yourself several button bracelets or mix these up with other bracelets you might have. And again, I'm sure you all have some really fun buttons to work with. You can come up with all kinds of fun combinations of your buttons for bracelets. So I'm going to set those there for a minute. I also have, you may have some of these, you may have seen these. These are very easy to find. They are little earring blanks. So it's just a flat piece of metal and it's a post earring. And these come in different sizes. So I'm not really sure what the size is. Let me look at my little sizing guide here. These are about a 9mm pad, but they come in different sizes. So if you want to go look for them online, they do come in different sizes. And what I did, I'm actually wearing a pair of these, but here's another example. So look at just these really pretty luminous buttons. And these just make a nice, cute little post earring. So for your friends that don't like the long dangly earrings, or maybe you just want a little something subtle, or you want to show off some of your button collection, this is a way to do it. And all you need to do is add the little earring backs, which my particular package of these actually came with the earring backs too. So those are fun. I'll take off one of my earrings so I can put this one back on. I also made a larger one. And this one is a little bit of a different look, more of an opaque button. And you just take some tacky glue and put that onto your post, and you've got an instant earring. So I love these, and the possibilities are endless. You could make hundreds of earring pairs, and you could even do something like this. So even though that pad is small, you can just center it where you want on the back of the button and just use the glue that guy on, and you've got a really fun button earring. And I'm dropping that everywhere. And you could even do like an asymmetrical look. So you could do two different buttons. That's sometimes fun to do. So just glue on your different buttons and you've got some fun things. Now, I also found these. So I believe these are also by Nun Design. And they are some smaller, very round bezels. And I found these really cool wood buttons. I thought these were pretty. And these came out of, I think they came out of a like jar of wood buttons that I found at a craft store, or maybe even Walmart. And all you do here, let's just do this really quick so you can see how quick and easy. I like to take a little bit of something to protect my workspace. So let me move all these pretty buttons out of the way. And I'm just going to take my glue and I'm going to drop in some glue, not a lot of glue. I don't want to overdo the glue. I made a rhyme. And I'm just going to dot some in the center. And then what you might want to do is, if you've got a toothpick, which I'm sure all of you cool crafters probably have plenty of those laying around, is you can kind of spin that glue around a little bit in the center and get that all kind of spread out, and then just literally drop those buttons in. And obviously you'll want to make sure your pieces and parts match up to the size of your button. This actually fits just perfectly in this bezel. And you've got a little bit of play time before your glue is dry to make sure you have your holes in the direction you want. Maybe you want to be very specific about that, or maybe you don't. And then you would let these dry. These could be a little pendant if you like a smaller pendant, or, and I should wait till this dries, but I want to show you how this looks. You're going to take your ear wire, Ooh, I'm getting glue on my hands. And you've got an instant little drop earring with a button. So this is just another easy peasy way. And if you love buttons, I mean, it's just a fun way to display your buttons, wear your buttons, make some fun button jewelry. So we'll set that there. Now, this is something that I came up with. I'm pretty sure I came up with this. I did a couple of videos about this, and people kind of went nuts because this was kind of a new concept. But this is a shank button, and it's on an earring. And so let me show you this kind of ear wire first of all. So let me grab, I've got a couple of samples here. So this is called a kidney ear wire. So you don't see these as often these days, but I love these for lots of different earrings, not just button earrings, but this kind of ear wire, this is a very large one. They come in different sizes. Some of them you may remember from like the 70s. They were really, really small. But they now come in like a size about this big, and then they come in this large size. And what I love about these is you can add a button to this. And what I do is I use these little silicone earring backs. So they kind of become invisible. So you guys probably have these on the backs of your earrings. They come in a couple different shapes. And what I do is I put one onto my kidney ear wire. So I'm going to push it on at the end, and I'm going to pull it around to here. And then I've got one of these dress it up buttons, shank buttons, and I'm going to put that on, and that's just going to go, and it's going to sit on that little earring back. Then I'm going to take the other one, and I want this particular one has like a flat end to it. So I'm going to make sure that the two flat parts are going to kind of sandwich the shank on the button. So I'm going to push that on, and I'm going to pull that down, and it's going to sit behind that button, and it's going to make that sandwich onto the shank. And you can do this with a little fabric shank button. So I found this little vintage guy, and this little one really doesn't move around a lot. The bigger ones may move, and sometimes you might have to adjust a little bit where these sit. But if you want to try and use a shank button for an earring, this is one way that you can do it. And so I typically I'll take one, and I love this color. This is another great fall button. And I used gold tone here, and I've got my two rubber stoppers or earring backs on there, and they're holding on, and they're not visible because they're behind the button. And then I will come in, and I usually add a little something to the bottom. So I added a little wire wrapped bead here. These are vintage check glass beads. And I've got this pretty little pair of earrings. I won't say these are little. These are actually a little bit larger earrings. But you could go smaller. These daisies from the Dress It Up Buttons kit is, I mean, this is a nice lightweight button. And then this little fabric one is so cool because it's so lightweight. So this is just a fun way to use your shank buttons. And do I have another thing to show you? I think I covered it, but I'm gonna show you one more thing with this button, with this kind of an ear wire. So if you're going to add something at the bottom here, so this totally does not go with this, but D for Deb. Let's pretend we want to put a charm at the bottom. D for Daisy. How's that? Um, if you have these kidney ear wires, this loop is pretty open and it may allow your charm to kind of travel a little bit. So if you have ever worked with these before or ever worn these before, you may want to try this technique. So see how it's open there. I'm going to come in and let's see if I can get this in a way that I can actually show it to you. I'm going to pinch that together. I'm going to pinch that so that I've closed up that gap. So now my charm can still move, but it's not going to travel any further than the loop that it's in. Now, what happens then is you will have a little bit of warping of your connection point. So this little latch, this little hook here is where you're going to attach this part. So what I like to do is I like to take that and hold tight and bend it down a little bit so that it is going to still maintain that closed position, but it's also going to be in a good position for you to come in and hook that up. So I wouldn't necessarily put these two things together, but just to show you, this is just another fun way that you can use a button. So quickly, let's do a quick review. We've got these guys, the kidney ear wire shank button earring, fun. Then you've got the little button stud earrings just on those little fun little earring flats. Then we've got our fun button bracelets on bracelet blanks. Super fun. And we've got these dangly earrings with the buttons in the bezel that has a loop up top. So you're essentially making a charm. We have a button necklace. So taking some tiny chain, some thin chain, putting it through a 2-hole button, making that into a pendant. And speaking of pendants, 2 more ways to use buttons for pendants. You can drop them into a bezel. You can use a shank or a hold button. And you've got some fun ways to make jewelry with buttons.